All right, everyone. Hello in there, and welcome to another edition of Nothing But Worry. I am one of your co-hosts, Lance Ash, and here beside me is the other one of your co-hosts, my wife, Bonnie.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Lance Ash.
And,
The new regime requires that I identify by my husband's name.
right. Premier wife, first wife.
I guess under this regime you get 3 wives, one of which is a native born, and 14 some odd children, and able to breed with as many others as you want, and as many porn stars as you want to fuck, and as many women as you wish to rape.
Well, there's an old Arabic saying or belief that 4 is the ideal number of wives, because if you have 1, that's not enough. If you have 2, you'll favor one over the other. If you have 3, 2 will gang up on 1, but if you have 4, it'll be balanced.
Sounds like a crock of bullshit.
Sounds like the patriarchy in action.
Yeah.
But you would get to be premier wife. You would get to be the lead wife.
You, sweetie, get down on your knees. Yeah. Scrub that floor. Yeah. On your knees. Okay.
All right, so I worked my ass off this week. That's all I got to say. And
You're old. You're too old for this shit.
I was working last night. And the guy I was working with, he looked at me and he said, "Are you in a hurry?" And I
Get the fuck out of here.
And I said, "I just want this over with, you know." I don't know what's wrong with me. I just throw myself into the job. Years ago, we had this woman supervisor in Duluth, and I can't remember what she said to me. Something. I said, "Well, look, you know me by now. I've got one speed, and that's full on, and that's just the way it is. It's either full on, or I'm going to go sit in the break room and draw, and that's it."
Yeah, you're supposed to be getting a new supervisor, and there's a little bit of trepidation on your part.
Right. My policy is it's always better to go with the devil you know. So before we delve into all that, tell me about your situation and your day.
Situation?
You seem to be a little bit worn out at the moment.
Yes and no. I went to the doctor last week. I ended up on a course of prednisone, which gave me energy. But more than that, it relieved some of the pain that I live with constantly. I mean, I literally wake up in the middle of the night in pain from the position I'm in, having to move or worse, go in and take a hot soak in a bath and take pain pills, etc. And this week has been, like, the pain has been in the background. And it's been very different. I go back in a couple of weeks and I get cortisone shots. And that's supposed to last a couple months. Ideally 6 months, but it tapered off after about 3 months. I'm walking with a cane. I have to hold on when I go down the stairs or get out of the car because the pain is so debilitating. I got cocky this week. Yesterday I went off to the grocery store to pick up the groceries that they had packed for me. I started to get on the stairs thinking, oh, I've got this, and my leg just about gave out underneath me.
Well, I got home just now from going out and getting gas, and
I was covered in
you
sweat.
said I'm covered with sweat. I finished the dishes. You can see that pile of dishes over there. And plus, you made a big pot of soup. Are you done making the soup?
I need to go and add spice. I was supposed to do that before we sat down.
What is it doing? Cooking down now, or is it just waiting?
It's waiting for the spice at this point.
What kind of spice is going to go in there?
I'm gonna do some vegetable broth, and I was thinking maybe some salt, pepper, thyme, and perhaps a little bit of curry.
What about celery seed? Because it smells
I
like...
have celery in it. I have 6 stalks
Okay.
of celery. I built a base first with onions, then with garlic and celery,
It's strange because celery really has very little taste, but it has a very strong smell.
It really does alter the flavor. It is
Yeah.
one of the base flavors in French country cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
I have what's called a mirepoix, and you start off with a fat, and you cook in your onions and your celery, and then you add in things like peas, and then you can toss in a little bit of garlic and stuff, and that's just to build the base.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there you add things on top of that. A lot of times though I'll build a base of onion, then garlic and ginger, which is the traditional Indian one. Throw in a little bit of lemon juice or thyme, and you've got something that's more Mediterranean, that sort of thing.
I can't remember now, but in today's crossword puzzle, they said, "What's the ingredient?" In it was some Indian dish. What I can't. What was the answer?
It's the dish is rajma.
Uh-huh.
It's made with a base of red beans or red
Beans.
kidney
That was it. Beans. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Traditionally, it has things like a little bit of anise and some cinnamon in it. I've made it a couple of times over the year, and we're okay with it. But honestly, we're not that big of a fan of the large red kidney beans. We prefer things like pinto beans that are smaller, that cook down better, more of a mush, whereas the red beans hold their shape better.
Well, years ago, when I worked in Athens before, I would bring very, very little for lunch every night. And then when I started, I tried to keep doing that when they moved me up to Duluth. But eventually, I was like, I'm gonna have to start having a bigger lunch, something substantial. So Monty got in the habit of making me, a proper meal.
And a snack.
Right. So when I got back to Athens, I couldn't go back to the old way. And but what I'm getting at is one of the things that I went through a phase where what I would have when I was working in Athens before, one of the things that I would have for lunch is a can of dark red kidney beans, and that was it. Because they had a can opener, electric can opener in the break room. I would open the can, drain off the stuff, and then just eat beans straight out of the can.
I wouldn't dream of sending you with food like that now. Like this week, what all did you have? You had garlic noodles,
Well,
garlic creamy noodles,
Mhm.
a side salad.
Mhm.
Every single night you have the yogurt parfait.
That's right.
What else did I send you with this week? I can't remember.
Well, one week it was the
night.
twisty pasta. What did I say?
One night.
One night I had the twisty pasta with sort of a
Creamy
creamy garlic. Last night it was the rotini with pesto. Twice I've had a salad. One night it was the braised carrots on the side.
Did I send you with the black beans, rotels, and rice mix this week or not?
No.
I did something else.
But you did send
I did cilantro rice.
cilantro rice with broccoli in it.
Broccoli added,
That's
and
right.
that one's really good.
Yeah.
It's very, very aromatic.
It could have done. I can't remember. Did I forget to put? I usually put smoked paprika on everything. I used to put cayenne on everything.
It is. I'm sorry. It's like this American tradition of, let's just grab the salt and pour it onto the dish without even tasting it.
No, this is just to give it a little bit of bouquet. So when I open it, I'm like, I can smell the paprika. I can smell the cilantro. I can smell the broccoli.
Yeah, everyone can smell the broccoli farts. But in the mornings, I think there was a pizza morning, and I think we had an egg salad with tomatoes and spinach sandwiches this morning.
You know, I really should have put that in a tortilla instead of having it on bread. Yeah, it just, first of all, it wouldn't have fallen out the sides like it did, and second of all, you could
hold it together.
My problem is I'm afraid to heat up a single tortilla in the microwave because I'm afraid that it's not enough substance in the microwave to keep it from getting damaged, because you can't run the microwave empty, you know.
Oh, good grief. Tortillas have water and oil in them. I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And besides, you're not heating it up for more than 10, 15 seconds for a single, just to get it flexible.
Right, that's the
And
thing, is to get it
then-
flexible, yeah.
Then you stuff it, and then you put it in for 30 seconds to a minute. I sent you with the fabulous burritos this week.
That's right.
The
That's right.
fabulous burritos are black beans I make in the Instant Pot.
And there's a little bit of rice in there with it,
saute-
too.
Yeah, yeah. I saute onions and bell pepper together.
But the secret
Add
is...
in chopped cilantro stems.
Right.
Save the cilantro leaves for stuffing the burrito.
But the secret
And then the
is,
Rotels.
after you make it, she grills it in a pan, both sides. And then you
Yep.
wrap it up.
That's
And then when
not
you
all.
open the lid at work, that smell, it's grilled, and you
It's
know.
a finishing touch, but
Right.
you know the chipotle Cholula sauce.
Right.
That right there, I add that in. I add a little bit of the taco seasoning, and so I mix all that together, and I bake tofu cubes.
That's right, too, yeah.
And I add those in last after I add in the black beans. I'll make the black beans for 30 minutes, cook them in the Instant Pot.
I don't know
And
that I
then
could...
add in salt for another 10 minutes and then drain everything off and rinse it. Add that into the onion base with the Rotels and such. A little bit more of that Cholula. By the way, we just ordered a second half-gallon container.
Isn't that amazing?
Cholula.
I was about to
We
say,
love it.
I don't think I could go back to Valentina now.
Oh, it's so boring compared to it. It's got such a
know.
heavy vinegar base.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not as bad
They
as
do
like
make...
Texas Pete crap.
Yeah, I didn't know any better 35 years ago.
Well,
But,
you're in your parents' home.
Well, when I used to live in that apartment over there,
In Oconee?
no, the apartment over there, top of the hill on Atlanta Highway.
University? Yeah.
Across the street was a Domino's, and they had the pickup special, so you could go get a cheese pizza for like $5 or whatever it was, and I would just dump Texas Pete all over it, and it was fantastic. But Texas Pete, like same as Tabasco, it's just vinegar.
We did have a thing for a while. We were adding Valentina to pick up pizza. You remember that?
Mhm.
And then you discovered Cholula works better on it.
But you know, we have a bottle of Valentina in the house still somewhere.
I was
Are you
looking.
are you
Yeah.
sure? I thought I saw it. Because if we do have some, I'd like to use it up on something. But the Cholula Chipotle, it just has a smoky.
I gave it to Reed. I sent her off with a bag of stuff the other month. Every time she comes over, I
Does
try
she-
to send food home with her because I'm her mom.
So does she like hot sauces and things?
She does. She likes them up to a point. She doesn't like it masking everything else. It's a compliment for her. She was very jealous of our half-gallon, 64 ounces
Really?
of Cholula.
I think if Peter started consuming mass quantities of hot sauce, his health would improve dramatically.
I don't know. With his ulcerative colitis, he has to be really careful.
I think it's
Oh,
good
I
for
made
you.
your homemade mac and cheese. I did a double
Yes,
batch.
yes.
Put them in 2 8x8 pans. So you had one pan and Peter had one pan. And I sent that to work with you, part of it. And the next morning I thought, oh, he's going to come home, eat another third of it, and then I'll send him with some. Nope. You got the whole plate, the whole thing, 2/3 of it was left. Sat down for breakfast and just snarfed it up.
So earlier this week, one day I had really, really good sleep, and I kept thinking, okay, look, just replicate the entire day's routine, and you can replicate that situation. But it never happened. And so by last night, I mean, I slept, but I just didn't have the kind of sleep I wanted. So last night, I normally don't drink coffee, I drink tea, but I had some coffee left over here, and I made a cup of coffee, and then I had put some tea in a thermos to drink later. You know, by the time I got to work, I was feeling really jumpy. And after a while, I started to feel like, oh, I think you've had a little too much caffeine. You need to balance this out. So I happened to have some of these fruit flavored Mentos.
Ugh.
And I thought, well, if you eat this, it'll give you some sugar and it'll balance out the. They were nasty, nasty. And I ate the whole damn sleeve of them. And I just like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to break so I can eat the yogurt parfait so it'll settle my stomach. And oh my God, it was nasty. I don't like candy. I like sweets, I like pie, cake, cookies, that kind of thing. But I've just lost my taste. When you're a kid, you can eat candy by the bucket, but ugh. And that really goes true for chocolate too. I mean, if I eat chocolate, it has to be with something. Chocolate and bread is really good together.
Chocolate and popcorn's really good together.
What is that knockoff Nutella that we've had? Not really knockoff, but it's similar to Nutella.
I
Oh
don't
God,
know.
what was it?
Is it in a similar type of container?
It's a hazelnut chocolate spread, and I can't.
I don't remember.
It's been about 2 years ago, maybe
It's been
3.
since Reed left with us.
Yeah.
Because I'd get it for her.
I will tell you.
She was one of those weird kids that she would make things. She would make toast, and she'd add that to the toast while it's hot.
Mhm.
She also did peanut butter to the toast while it was still hot. You know, one day I tried that. It was actually kind of good.
Really? I'll tell you, in 3 weeks, I'm going to have a couple days vacation, and Bonnie and I are going to go up to Atlanta and spend the whole day up there, hitting all our favorite places. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is getting blueberry halva. It's
It's sunflower halva.
as opposed to what?
As
Oh, as opposed
opposed
to
to
sesame.
sesame.
Yeah. Because it's from the Ukrainian sort of region.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to find right now because
But-
of the Russian invasion.
But yeah, the blueberry halva is unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Something I want to talk to you about, something I want to ask you about, sort of semi-seriously. Hold on one second. Got to vet this topic before we get into it.
Oh.
All right, what I want to ask Bonnie is, you seem to not have that big of a problem with my taking kratom, other than the expense. But so what's the deal? Do you think it's not as crazy inducing as the other stuff?
How frank do you want me to be?
Well, let me put it to you this way. You've said in the past that one of the reasons that you don't like my smoking pot is because it makes me a different person. It you know, so I get the impression that you feel like it's so mild and it doesn't really make me act crazy.
I think it does affect you differently. I think there's something more to all of this. You have an addictive personality. You have addiction issues. You like getting high. You like being drunk. You like being stoned. You like being out of your head. You like being out of whatever is the norm for you. You seek to get high in a variety of different ways. You've done it through poppy seeds. You've done it through nutmeg.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it through one other legal in South Carolina substance. I have concerns about you doing the kratom because once you get to the point where you're used to getting a buzz off of it, whatever it may be, getting focused, getting relaxed, giving you energy, relieving pain, whatever it is you get off of it, that's going to reach a plateau for you, and it won't sate your need that thing that feeds into your addictive personality. I don't mind this as much because it's legal.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, alcohol is illegal, but you're an alcoholic. Cigarettes are legal, but that's just stupid. You get your bills?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't like the price. I mean, it's $8 a pop, and it lasts for how long, Lance?
At the peak, it lasts maybe 2 hours, but then there's lingering effects. And the funny thing about it is, unlike a lot of drugs, if you have a little bite to eat, it actually sort of starts it back up again a little bit. I've never experienced a drug that eating sort of not like a whole meal, but just like, an apple or something.
Don't get me wrong. I don't mind relief. I don't mind a release. I don't mind that pleasure principle. I'm not against that sort of thing. Like taking steroids last week that the doctor prescribed. It gave me a relief and a release from the pain. When I had the attack of the Yellow Jackets.
Mm-hmm. Even the doctor said I would be drinking whiskey right now.
Yeah, he was adamant about that, actually. Of course, he also believed in chewing tobacco and other things on the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a good old boy from Alabama.
That's a camping trip trick.
Yeah. So I go in, and every couple of years something happens. I have a tooth pulled, bee stings, fall and break something, whatever. And I get these pain pills, and I ration them out. And I have 2 right now from when I got bee stung, a year and a half ago? Mm-hmm. And I'm holding on to them for that time when my pain is so extreme. Yeah. But the interesting thing is, if I had an excess, I would take it just to feel relaxed sometimes. Well, I live with constant pain.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting. It is emotionally exhausting. It's physically exhausting.
Well, 2 things. Number one, this week and tonight is a classic example of where I get so wound up
from the week
during the course of the week and worn out
you can't sleep
that
when you get home.
I've got 2 days off on the weekend, and that first night, Friday night, I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I can't sleep. I can't,
The first day off, Friday morning, you get home, you walk in this morning, there's this dead silence when he comes in, and I said, "Who's the old man?" I knew you were hurting. I was in the middle of doing something in the kitchen I couldn't walk away from. And you come walking to the kitchen, and you are just dragging like Frankenstein's monster. You're just shuffling along, dragging your feet. And then a couple hours later, you were up. You were awake, because on Fridays you can't seem to stay asleep because you're so antsy to get going and get stuff done. The first day is difficult for you. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm like, yeah, do the fucking shit tonight, Take your kratom.
Well, it's like today or this morning I slept about 3.5 hours, and then I got up, and I've been wanting to go up to the Danielsville Library for a while and see if they had anything decent for sale. So I woke up and I was like, oh, screw it, just go ahead and go up there. It's like 30 minutes to get up there, 30 minutes to get back. So when I got back, I thought, I tell you what, ate a huge cheese pizza, and the cheese and all that food will help you sleep. So I ate half a goddamn DiGiorno's cheese pizza with stuff added on top.
Mushrooms and bell peppers and diced tomatoes
and black olives
and extra cheese
and Italian seasoning. Right. So I eat all that. I lay down, do some reading, fall asleep, and I slept just a couple of hours. And I woke up and I was like, no, this cannot be happening. This cannot be happening. And I was like, It just it's infuriating. Oh well. Anyway, there was another point I was going to make up in relation to all this, but
What?
I can't remember now. But oh, I know what it was. Talking about pain pill addiction and addiction in general and stuff like that, using drugs. I don't understand people who waste whatever drug it is they're doing during the week when they're working. When I used to, a long time ago,
Well, it has to do with the fact they're in so much pain. and
I
trying
guess
to
so.
stay.
I guess so.
I mean, Vicky used to work with, her boobs were so big, her back hurt, so she was on some kind of thing all the
She was on a muscle relaxant. Yeah.
Tramadol? or
Tramadol,
something?
yeah. But see, the thing is, years ago, I had like a leftover bottle of Lortabs or something, and I wouldn't do it during the week. I had a strict regimen. I would do it Friday night, and that was it. This is back when I had the studio across in the old house next door.
But it goes to you getting unwound from the week. You are committed to creating. And during the week, there's only so much you can do because you have to follow a sleep schedule. You're worn out. You have only a limited amount of time. You want to create small things while you're up, but you got other things you need to do, like meditate or whatever. And then on the weekends, you want to get directly into the creating. But in order to do that, you've got to wind down. You've got to relax a little. And I think that's why you would do that. Like after your big surgery, they gave you 100 Lortabs.
Really?
Yeah. And you said, ration these out for me. So the first week, he's got a fucking brain. They removed part of his fucking skull. He's got a 9-inch thing running from the top of his head to the top of one of his ears. And during that week, you took 10 of the Lortabs. You refused. You wanted to deal with it. The steroids were more important because we had to reduce the swelling quickly.
Well, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the prednisone?
No. It's a very short order thing. I have it because when I'm giving vaccinations, my body responds like crazy. My immune system goes into overdrive because it's been exposed to this. I try to wait at least 48 hours so the immune system has a proper response. But then it gets to the point where I'm not just on a cane, I'm doubled over and crouching. I'm in so much pain. So I have to do the prednisone for 3 days. And even then, what I do is I try to do as little as possible. So I did a day and a half.
Okay.
I know, it's
I just
silly.
wondered if it was still efficacious for you.
It has a lasting effect. Because inflammation is one of those things that it lasts for a long time. I can't take...
How many do you have left?
I have 3 from that order of 6.
I thought we had some leftover hanging around from some other...
Peter has some, because Peter has an autoimmune disease, and if he has a flare-up,
Because I'd
he
like
has to do a tapering dose for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because with his disease, it causes ulceration, and ulcers require a long period to heal.
Because I'd like to try it again, but this time without the nasal thing on top of it.
yeah, I
Because that
know.
really just threw me for a
Yeah.
loop.
Yeah. Well, maybe another weekend.
It would have to be on the weekend, because yeah.
You can't do it during the week.
Yeah.
Take it at midday when you get up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've
It's a good idea.
technically got a standing order for prednisone, so it's not like you're taking...
I do? Why for? What?
Because of your swelling in your brain.
What do you... All right, so
You have swelling in your brain sometimes. Okay.
Well-
Remember the old Gary Larson cartoon that I love so much? 3 old men on the front porch.
Oh, yeah.
Rain's a coming, and one's foot's swollen up, one's knees swollen up, and one's head swollen up.
Yeah.
That's you. You get inflammation and swelling on
Yeah,
your
we've
brain.
talked about that before.
When-
That if the
and-
barometric pressure is high, my
Yeah.
knee start or something. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was yeah, that's right. The
But
pressure in my
you
head. That's
also-
right.
You
Yeah.
have this pressure in your head.
Well, not only
And that's one of
that.
the reasons that I wanted you to take the budesonide, prednisone. It's a steroid. It's not prednisone. It's budesonide over the counter
Right.
to try to get inflammation reduced right in that area.
Well, it's been 7.5 years since my skull surgery, and the area around and above my right eye socket is still fucked up, and I can feel it. There's a deadness to it if I run my fingers over it.
You have nerve damage, permanent nerve damage.
And,
That's what went in and cut away and cut into the nerves in that area.
Yeah. And when I pull the right eyelid up, you can feel there's this deadness, and sometimes it's actual pain to touch this area above my eye.
This is long-term nerve damage. It's limited. He tried to be very careful. One of the things that we were concerned about after that surgery was the tumor had worked its way into the nerves at the optic nerve area. And he said that he had to spend a couple of hours in there taking time to literally peel pieces of the tumor away from the nerves in that region so you could retain your eyesight. Yeah, it was a devastating surgery for you in so many ways. And besides, to this day I still call you brain damage boy. And what's that quote you use? Is this a little piece of your brain?
Yeah, that's
Don Cleese?
on Faulty Towers. That woman who refuses to use her hearing aid because she's afraid the batteries will run down.
God,
and
so cheap. Yeah.
John Cleese picks up some little piece of fluff and goes, "Is this a piece of your brain?" Oh my God, Bonnie and I are coming up on 30 years of marriage, and the shit we have been through together.
It is amazing. I mean, I've been through a number of surgeries myself. I won't detail them. And you've been through a number of surgeries.
Both of our kids have had various health catastrophes.
I mean, our daughter ended up with first and second degree burns and having a skin graft over a large portion of her arm, and now they used this at that point it was a new procedure, shark skin type of stuff for it, and she has zero scarring, none.
When I
took her to the hospital, I had to take her to the burn center because they just stabilized her here in Athens, and they said, "You've got to take her to the burn center." I took her there. She had literal bubbles on her skin and other areas where her skin was peeling off.
When I was a kid, I was terrified of being burned badly because I had seen pictures of people just horrifically scarred.
When we were in the waiting room, the burn center there treats soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And there were soldiers that had parts of their faces removed, and they just had this massive wrinkles and peeled back material down to musculature on their faces and their arms and their legs. And you just sit in this waiting room full of things. There was a woman, we sat there and listened to her. She talked about how she'd been out burning leaves one day, and she had been using gasoline to light the fire. And the gasoline fumes embedded in her sweater that she was wearing. And when she got finished doing her chores, she lit up her cigarette.
Oh my
and
God.
The fucking sweater, which was made of something like a rayon or polyester or something, had those fumes in it, and the thing just lit on fire. And her chest, what you could see, was just this big wrinkled mess, and part of her neck and her face too. And there are people that go, "Oh, gas fumes don't," maybe they're hard to do, but once they get embedded in the clothing, it was horrific to watch.
That reminds me, years ago, when I worked at the post office, years ago, before you and I were married, there was a woman up there who I think she started off as a clerk, and then she later became a carrier. But she
She was burned on
she
her
had
chest.
yeah. I told you about this woman,
Yeah, she was
It-
burned on her chest.
and it went up. It went up just below her chin. There was,
Yeah.
and I felt so bad for her. And I remember her saying when it was like summertime, and people were talking about picnics and going
Yeah.
swimming and stuff. And she said sort of obliquely, "Yeah, well, I don't go swimming." And she kind of looked at the person like, "You know why?"
Yeah. Well, Reed does have to wear SPF 50 on the inside of her arm where they did the skin graft. And initially, the first year after she healed, she had a growth, a mole that came up very quickly, and we had to go and have that removed and tested. It was not cancerous. But she has to wear SPF 50 on her skin in that area.
Do you remember when she
And
was
keep it
little?
covered up, preferably.
She was little. She was maybe 2. I don't even think she could talk yet. But
was
she had a little mole on her foot, and they wanted it removed. And we took her up there, and
poor little thing.
they sort of sprayed it with something that would like a
Deaden
topical
it?
deadening, and then sliced it off with a scalpel, just clean as a
Yeah.
like that
But
snick.
still, poor little thing.
I know you.
And there was nothing wrong with that either. I mean, I made you go to see the doctor about the one that was growing on your back, and they said, "Oh, no worry."
Yeah, basically, they just told me, "Oh, it's nothing to worry about. Get the hell out of here." You don't want to hear that from a doctor. Like you have your fears and concerns just dismissed with
Yeah,
you know.
I do large mammal grooming on you, and I had noticed this thing grew faster and faster. I knew growing up, you get moles and things on you because my dad would sunbathe without a shirt. And I watched over the years, he got more and more moles on him, and they were larger. So I was always concerned, you would sunbathe also when you were young. And I just wanted you to go see. It was $30, $40 to go in, and they're like, nothing, go away.
Yeah. I used to suntan a lot when I was, 17, 18, something like that. And then suddenly found out how bad getting suntan is, and I just stopped
Were
immediately.
you one of those guys who would use vegetable oil?
No, no.
Oh, somebody I knew growing up would buy hair dye and mix it with oil in order to make their own artificial suntanning.
Bronzer type thing.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
We had when I was living with my parents up on the hill, we had a trampoline in the backyard, and I would put hydrogen peroxide in my hair and then go lay out there on the trampoline with just a pair of shorts on. Actually, sometimes I'd put like a shirt over my face because I couldn't stand the sun right in my eyes. But I would just fall asleep, and my hair was just like whitish blonde after several treatments with the peroxide. I went for a couple of years where I was a blonde, and yeah. I came, a couple of years ago, I thought, I need to try going blonde again.
Yeah.
And I got to the orange phase, and you were just like, oh, God, please. And I just stopped it.
Please, let's cut this out.
Yeah.
Literally. Chop it out. It was terrible. Remember that terrible phase I went with dyeing my hair black? I've got dark brown, had dark
Well,
brown hair.
for a while, I was like, oh, I like it. I like it that you're keeping it dark. I like it that you're dyeing your hair.
It
And then
looks
one day you
terrible.
said something like, can I stop dyeing my hair? And I'm like, yeah, if you want to. And now I like it. I like this beautiful silver gray.
I have very white hair. When I pull it up, I have this layer of gray that comes from my face, and then I pull it upwards, and so that gray extends, and it looks like I'm more gray than I am. I get compliments a lot on my gray hair
Really?
because it's so natural, and women love gray hair. It just seems to be a trendy sort of thing, and I'm obviously natural in my hair color.
People from, let's say, 60 years ago would be totally baffled by our acceptance of certain things today, because there was a time period where, oh, it was bad to have gray hair, it was bad to have a gray beard, it was bad for a woman older than, say, 45 to have long hair. You're older now, you need to keep your hair short.
My grandmother, Mama, had no choice. She turned prematurely white when by the time she was 19, she was completely white-haired.
Mm-hmm.
And she attributed it to the trauma of losing love. Her parents had forbidden her to marry the man that she was in love with. He was 27, 28 years older than her, and they said no at the time. Later, she ended up marrying him after her first marriage collapsed. But my mother said that she never knew her mother as anything but white-haired. And she hated the fact that her hair would take on yellow tones, and so she would buy the stuff in a bottle to get the yellowing out and to ensure that it was always snow white.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept it relatively short and curly, and she was always known for having this shocking head of white hair.
Related, Bonnie and I finished the last episode of the last season of Bosch Legacy. Titus Welliver has the most beautiful white hair, and
it's a nice head of hair. He's got a receding part to it, but there aren't any patches of baldness. Mm-hmm. There's this evenness, and when they do close-ups, his hair is beautifully cut, and it's still thin, so you're able to see the individual hairs and the way that it streaks with that dark and gray and white all together.
Well, I would far prefer for my hair to be completely gray than to be going bald, which, and as I've said 100 times before, I'd rather go bald front to back than back to front, because front to back, you're just getting a bigger forehead. But back to front, people are looking at you and going, look at that bald man. Ah.
Actually, I just comment on the shine. And
oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you went from 1 to 2 spots on your head. So I know that's bothered you. And it's from the double crowns. Yeah. And you were always like, I'm never going to have thinning hair. My mother's father had thick, dark hair. And then, boom, it hit. And I have to wonder if it isn't the lack of natural hormones. You're on all this hormone replacement stuff, plus the chemo, plus multiple traumas with the brain surgery.
No, what it is
just cursed, huh?
No, there's more genetic factors than just your mother's father.
Yeah, because it's complete bullshit.
I mean, I think it is probably the key factor, but it all blends together.
Everybody still tries to put everything down in Mendel's terms.
People try to boil everything into one cause, and they can't stand that there's a multiple.
It isn't that you get half from your dad and half from your mom. No, it's roughly that, but there are factors in. Like my dad has light blue eyes all over his family and gray eyes. That's where your eyes change color. My sister's kid got his gray eyes, so his eyes change color for whatever he wears. Peter got his blue eyes, and it seems to be linked to the males, and my daughter gets the brown eyes.
Well, the first year of our daughter's life, she had blue eyes, and around the time she turned 1, they turned brown. Bizarre.
So disappointed.
Oh, and
I wanted her to have blue eyes because I always wanted blue eyes. You always want what you can't have.
That's exactly right.
It's like I always wanted straight hair and I always had curly hair. I always wanted lighter colored hair, especially reddish hair.
The sooner you
just have to accept who you are.
That's right. It's the sooner that you mature to the point where you're like, this is who I am. I'm not somebody else. These are my qualities. I mean, you can strive to be better. You can strive to eliminate bad habits or bad inclinations. But basically, if you say, this is who I am and I like being me, you'll be much happier than spending your whole life.
A quote from Mr. Rogers. And it's something as basic as, I like being me.
That's right. Yeah, basically. Um. So anyway,
You want to talk about Reed's missive to me this week?
oh, Reed sent us. Our daughter sent us an email saying, "Why was I never tested for autism the way my brother was?" And you responded with a whole huge thing. But
Yeah, I said, have you met your brother? Everybody, and I do mean everybody, thought that kid's got issues. And he does. OCD, he's on the spectrum somewhere with regard to autism. He isn't as truly autistic as most kids are, but he is somewhere in the Asperger's range. He was one of these kids that would just fixate on something, he would learn everything about it, but then he would move on. Come to find out, he's just fucking genius, and on the spectrum, and has OCD. And so his behavior really overshadowed Reed and her needs in a lot of way. Whole squeaky wheel theory. And Reed has often wondered if she's on the spectrum. Peter says she is because he thinks we all are. And I told her basically, I said, you're asking the wrong person. I might as well be crazy. I'm the one that's chosen to stay in this household.
well, what was it? Which one of you was it that called me a hyperactive something or another? And what was the exact quote?
She said that you were a hyperactive delinquent.
That's right. That's right.
And
Oh my God.
I called you a natural born addict. I said you had ADHD. You were somewhere on the spectrum, probably. But more than likely, you were just a highly creative, intellectual egoist or something to that effect. And I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It just, but the whole point of what I was telling her was, does anybody really know what normal is? I mean,
Well, that's one of the things I would.
she happens to fit into societal norms better because she never wanted to ruffle the feathers.
She never wanted to stand out and be, singled out as, for bullying or
The one
disapprobation or
time-
something.
Well, she had two incidences, but the one time that the teachers really took notice of her was one teacher said, your daughter daydreams all the time. And I said, just poke her with a sticker and wake her up, that's all. And the thing was is that when she was born, she was just this quiet little thing. When I was nursing her, she'd fall asleep. And I had to wiggle her ear and stuff. And it was just her personality. And then she escaped into daydreams. And we had to bring her back around, and we found that putting her focus into books helped her to escape the mental daydreams.
Well, I noticed, I don't know if I can formulate this exactly right. I think this partly maybe have to do with having a little brother, but she's very responsible, and she's
Extremely.
very. If you put her like you got to take care of these little ones, she will do it.
But it's more than that. She followed our example as individuals. I always have to make certain that everything is done around the house. I once half-jokingly said I had to stay sober for X number of years because if one of us was going to get drunk, the other one had to take the kids to the doctor. So you went through periods of in and out problems. So I didn't drink for years. Then she saw you always overcommitting at work and coming home really tired. And then you would come home and you would fixate and focus on getting your jobs done. You always had to follow a certain schedule. You had to have certain routines. You had certain disciplines that you followed. Again, I emphasize you're the most disciplined person I know. And so she became like us in that regard. But you're right. From the time she was small, she was 2, almost exactly 2 when Peter was born, we would say, be gentle, be gentle. He's a baby. And we would emphasize the way that she had to interact with him. And
Well, also, you and I are both
we
older.
involved her.
But see, you're the oldest of two children. I'm the oldest of two children.
And she's
Reed's
the
the oldest of
oldest.
two children.
Yes.
And I believe in the birth order thing.
I
It
agree.
influences how you interact with other people the rest of your life.
Yeah, middle kids are a lot chattier, and then the younger seem to be more people pleasers, and the older seem to be more into the we got to get things done. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when Reed was growing up, I would go, okay, where is your brother? Let's go do something. You help me do this.
I saw her when she was little being defensive of him,
She
telling
would
older people.
literally stand between him and strangers and go away.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Even when you would joke around and play bear, she'd go, no,
Yeah.
go away, bear. And she was 4 years old doing this.
Yeah.
And remember when they got BB guns? Her going and running and getting a BB gun and shooting, trying to shoot at the TV
Oh yeah.
to kill
Yeah.
King Kong and all this kind of stuff. It was just always this. We didn't actually have pellets in them.
No, they were fake.
Yeah, some kind of little.
But we
Catwalk
watched.
thing.
I had a VHS copy of King Kong, the original, and Reed and I were watching it when she was little, and Kong is coming to get Fay Ray for the first time, and Reed jumped up and she ran to her room and she said, "I'm gonna get a gun and shoot that King Kong." She went through this phase. She couldn't even talk properly yet. But if people were arguing on TV, she would get right up in front of the screen and just start
Imitate them.
just throwing her hands up in there and like she didn't
It would
like it.
bother her.
Yeah.
And The Simpsons were something she really enjoyed watching. But if there was a conflict on the screen, no, this can't happen. This absolutely cannot happen.
Well,
Now I have to get involved too.
There's a Halloween episode where Snake gets electrocuted and his hair gets donated to Homer.
And
It's possessed by Snake, and it makes Homer crazy, and he starts trying to kill Bart. Well, Peter was little, and he did not understand what was going on, and he was really disturbed that Homer was trying to kill Bart. And I was just like, no, Peter, it's the hair that's making it. The hair is like magic, and it's making him do this. It's not him. And to this day, that sort of bothers me that
One of the things
he was
that
so
also
disturbed.
bothers me is Peter was a precocious little thing, and one of the things we did was teach him about dinosaurs. When he was 2, he was saying, that's Pachycephalosaurus, that's the T-Rex, that's the Velociraptor. And so, before the age of 5, one of the Jurassic Park movies came out.
Oh my God, that was Jurassic Park 3. We went to see it at the theater, and the very first encounter between the T-Rex and the whatever the other big one was, and they are just going at it, and it's loud as hell. Peter jumped up in my lap and he said, "I want to go home."
He literally
and I said,
got
"Look,"
out of his seat, turned and faced you and buried his head in your chest, grabbing hold of you, like clinging like a little monkey to his parent.
well,
running away.
I said, "Look, Peter, look around the theater. There's no dinosaurs in the theater. It's all up on the screen. It's just like TV."
We felt terrible.
Well, I knew he'd
I
get used to it. I'll tell you something.
still feel bad about it.
Well, I'll tell you something that I did not agree with. Oh, Peter must have been about 5, and Reed would have been about 7. It was somewhere in that range. And it was Halloween night. We were going to go trick-or-treating, and I thought, well, there's a new Jackie Chan movie out. This will be entertaining and funny like all of his movies. This was Legend of Drunken Master, and it was not like that. This was much more serious, and it was just too violent. And there's a scene where
Believing that one?
I said, "This is too violent," and we left.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a scene where Jackie Chan and whoever he's teamed up with are getting the shit beaten out of them in jail, and that's when I said, "Nope, this is too much." No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not subjecting them to this.
I have to wonder if that dinosaur movie shaped the kids because they shunned a lot of movies that had violence in it afterwards.
Yeah.
Um,
When I was a kid, I'm trying to think if I was disturbed by really violent stuff. Of course, back when I was a kid, movies that you would see on television or at the movies, you were never allowed to be taken to some R-rated thing. So I never really saw that kind of violence as a kid, I don't think.
we got cable. It was a new thing. We were probably middle high school when it happened in our area. And so we got one of those packages and it had HBO Showtime or something where they had R-rated movies. And there was this routine we went through. We would be watching it and a sex scene would start. And one of our parents would go, "Girls, go to the kitchen." And so my sister and I have to go to the kitchen. And they're like, "Okay, you can come out now." And when our kids were growing up, anything that was questionable, Peter in particular would get really embarrassed and leave the room.
Yeah, I was like that when I was a kid.
I don't know if it was, the semi-erection. I don't know if it was...
Semi-erection? What kind of
Yeah.
movies were you watching with him?
But that's the thing.
Oh, you mean he had a semi... Oh,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if he was embarrassed about that. I don't know if it was... I don't know what it was, because, when you're a kid, it's like, ooh, cleavage, woo,
Yeah.
And you guys are like, whoa. And so the response can either be drooling or I'm embarrassed or
Drooling.
I'm going to go and have some time alone,
Yeah, I was, we were living in that one-story house on the other side of town, and my parents had a big party, like with a buffet and stuff. I must have been about first grade, second maybe, and there was a woman there with a low-cut shirt or dress on, and she had this long line of cleavage, and I remember staring at her boobs, just fascinated by the cleavage. And you're a little kid, and yeah, I know. We had a teacher in second grade. She was sort of a hippie. She had long, straight blonde hair, and she never wore a bra. And she leaned over one day, and I could see her tits, and so I wanted to get a better look. So I went up to her, right up to her, and I said, "Miss Bowerset," and she leaned over to me, and she's like, "What? What is it? What do you want?" And I'm paralyzed because I'm looking straight down her shirt at her tits, and I'm like, I forgot."
What was that joke that comedian told about pornography doesn't lead to violence?
Oh yeah, he said, pornography leads to jacking off, which leads to a snack, which leads to a nap. So I don't really see the problem here.
Who was that? Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't know. It might have been Greg Giraldo.
Who the hell was that?
He was big for about 2 years, and then I think he overdosed and died.
Oh.
He wasn't very old, maybe 35. I'll have to look that up. But I need to
Who
get...
got compared to Chris Farley this past week? Something in the news, somebody was compared to Chris Farley.
Whoever it was looked like him vaguely, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like behavior-wise.
Yeah.
I need to check something. Hold on.
Okay, what you got?
Okay, we've been talking for 58 minutes.
Jesus.
And I was going to say I need to go get a cup of tea anyway.
Okay.
So
Call it a night?
yeah, anything else to bring up?
Well, you could get us started on politics and we'd be here.
I don't want to get into all that
I'm
because
so
nothing you can do
sick of
about
it.
it, and there's just all you can do is just keep your head down. So let's not get into that or the economy or anything, the looming threat of Christian imperialism.
The deconstruction of the Constitution, etc.
But everything is going okay with me. My art is going pretty well, and that's about it, I'll be posting a new song hopefully this weekend as well. on the album I'm working on currently, which is called A Series of Moral Failings.
Now, are you going to continue your weekly rambling?
Now, the Rambling series is done, but I am continuing to do
Individual reading?
episodic readings from this
Yeah.
book I wrote about 15 years ago.
And what's that called?
The name of the book is Dallas Pimento,
Okay.
and so I got to do that, and I'm trying to boil down what I do and get and stop all these extraneous projects. Just boil it down to just a couple of things. What are you up to lately, project-wise?
God, I've been doing a lot of writing. A lot of writing. And last week with the prednisone, I went into what you used to jokingly call cocaine mode, where I over-organize. I told Reed, I said, I reorganized organized drawers last week. And I still have a little bit of energy, excess energy, from having a respite from the extreme pain. And so I've been focusing on detail stuff. Of course, I had to do the taxes, and we ended up owing $900 and something in taxes. And some other paperwork I had to do this week too.
All right, so that's about it. I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.